Welcome to School of Hollywood, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the entertainment industry. Your host, Steve Owens, 25-year veteran in movies, music, and TV. Each week, we dive deep into the stories, struggles, and successes of the stars behind the scenes. From actors and directors to agents and casting professionals, we'll explore what it really takes to make it in Hollywood. Get ready for insightful conversations, insider tips, and a few surprises along the way. So whether you're a budding talent or just a fan of the glitz and glam, join Steve as he uncover the art of storytelling in Tinseltown. Let's get started.
Okay, hello. My name is Kaila Uli. I'm super happy to be here. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, I got to tell you, you have a very unique name because I listen to different things on the internet and nobody says it the same.
I stopped correcting people because it's always like I get Callie, I get Kayla, I get Kalia, I get everything you can imagine. So at this point, I'm just like, whatever you want to say, that's what it is.
So what's the origin of your name?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know what the origin of my name is, other than so my family we're Dutch and Indonesian. My name is not Indonesian. It's not Dutch. It's just like what my mom wanted to call me. And the story goes that she initially wanted to call me Mariska, but I guess my grandma, like vetoed that and said no. So they went with my name, and that's the story I got.
Well, for people who don't know you, you are one of the funniest people that I've seen on Instagram, who is actually like a female version of Gary V, and it's so much more funny. You started out as a model in Hollywood, and you found out that road was not as glamorous, and you talk about some of those horror stories, and then you moved into being an entrepreneur in vintage glasses. Tell us about some of the stories, what caused you to make the change?
Oh, well, let me just give you the nutshell version of this, okay? So I grew up in something called an independent fundamentalist Baptist church, which is essentially a cult. No cutting your hair, no TV, no radio, no pants, all of that. And then I ended up being like, I want out of this. And I was doing things like not stealing. I was like buying little 99-cent radios and like hiding them while I was sleeping, like, just like jamming out. And I had this big plan. So I got married when I was 19, and my husband and I met in this little culty group, and we're like, let's go. So we got married, and then he passed away when we were 21. We're both 21. So now I'm 21, having been homeschooled my whole life, couldn't get into college, couldn't get a job. I didn't have a real diploma. I was like, what in the world am I going to do for money? Well, thank God I'm tall. So I'm 5'10", and I started finding castings that I was not invited to. And I was like, I'm just going to go because someone's going to model, and it's going to be me because I can make money doing that. No one's going to check my credentials. And it didn't work right away, but eventually it was like, oh God, she's here again. She's here. Fine. She's here. The other model's not. Throw her in. And in the beginning, I was getting paid like less than 50% what other models were being paid because it wasn't always trendy to have the look that I look, which is like, there was a very specific look for models, but they
Sure.
brought me in for cheaper. And then over time, I started making more and more money. I started like fighting for myself and getting a fair rate. But the long goal was always to take this money from modeling and start a business. So that's what I did. And then I kept putting my modeling money into businesses, and I kept failing, and I ruined like 3 businesses. And it wasn't until I got to that 4th business that I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. And that's kind of the condensed version of that.
So did you start off on like a Shopify account, or how did you create your store?
Oh, I started on everything that you could imagine. I tried Wix, I tried Big Cartel, I tried Etsy. And then I ultimately found that like Shopify now is what I swear by. They're just the easiest, the simplest. Anyone can go in and code. Like it's Shopify is beautiful. That's all I use now. But early days, I did use a combination of Shopify and Etsy together, and they were each doing like 50-50 of the revenues. And then I moved over to just Shopify and was able to pull in traffic through Pinterest, social media, paid ads, and all that classic kind of way.
Your first big success was with the vintage sunglasses. What made you decide to go after those?
Okay.
And she's got a pair of them.
So at this point in my life, I had saved up enough money to get into college, and I had done all of the work that would allow me to get into college, which was a couple years of like building in the first place to get there. And I got a degree in marketing. that was like heavily focused on like product development, market research, and e-commerce. And at this point, I understood the value of selling something that not everyone else in the world was selling, but still had high interest. And a lot of people wanted sunglasses, but not a lot of people were doing vintage sunglasses. And then that was stacked on the fact that I was living on top of a vintage seller at the time, and he had a pile of vintage sunglasses that he didn't really know how to move. They were really like he was selling them in his store and they weren't moving. And I was like, this, this is it. So it was my differentiation point. That's why I arrived at vintage.
So you've noticed a lot of high influence on fake followers.
Mm.
How do you tell if someone has them, and what are things people should look for?
Um, s- it's easier now than ever to figure out if someone has fake followers, and it really comes down. But let me tell you, all right. People used to just be like, okay, ratio. You have 1 million followers, but you only have 2,000 likes. Oh, homie got ratio. Like there's like nothing. It's very obvious. But now people buy their likes, their follows, their comments, the whole package. They even buy shares these days. But you can always tell in the comment section because you go into the comments and they're not real. They look like either like mysteriously verified accounts that somebody no one's ever heard of. And this was pre-purchase verification, just like verified ones. Because there's a whole scam around verification, which we can talk about some other time. But so that was one signal. The other one is that the comments tend to be emojis, not words, or they'll say something very specific. You'll see like 5 of them that'll say like, hi, my baby, hi, my baby, hi, my baby. They all say the same generic repeat. They're never well thought out comments. So those are the biggest ones, but you can also just plug it into something like, Modash or like Social Blade and see, and it'll analyze it and tell you.
Mhm. Yeah, I know I've gone in on the Social Blade and looked at, a couple of the very top ones and noticed that, 17,559 followers are added every day, and they
Mhm.
lose approximately that same amount every day as well. So they have to be spending a lot of money to maintain these fake followers.
Yeah, well, there's a certain creator who shall not be named because I don't want to die, but they are one of the big ones, one of the big ones. And you can go look at their following and you can actually plug it into Social Blade. Anyone can do this. And you can see the day that they injected the followers. They went from like 30 followers to many, many millions overnight. And it's literally right there. But the way this person makes money and the way they're able to maintain constantly buying the comments, the shares, everything is fake, but they charge people to appear alongside them. And I'm trying to say this in the most masked way possible because I don't want anyone to figure out who I'm talking about. But they charge for you to be affiliated with them in any capacity, and they charge a lot. So they're charging you a couple grand, and you're getting to say, "Oh, I did that," and that's how they keep the whole circus running.
You have a couple of videos that are, just absolutely hilarious talking about the influencers going out and renting Lambos and houses and things like that. So where do these people find, the locations that they
I
can go
mean,
rent?
it's not hard. So actually, the way this used to work is influencers would just have like content days and they would go out and look for the most aesthetic places to shoot at. And that's why we see a lot of people at like Rodeo Drive and these certain hotels or like the Bradbury building. And like those kind of got old. At the same time, we got Pier Space, and Pier Space was designed it was supposed to be for sets. Like the jets and the luxury houses, it's supposed to be movie sets, it's supposed to be for production, but they're very affordable and anybody can book it. So that's what creators started doing. And people think I'm being dramatic when I say there is a $90 million house, $100 million house that you can get for $90 an hour. It's literally there on Peer Space. And my comments are like, it's not possible, the ROI. And I'm like, well, I never said that they're paying their mortgage on this. I'm pretty sure they just make a little side cash, but it is a sprawling mansion with full grounds and it looks like marble. It's like, how? My God, it's $90 an hour. And that's just literally so easy to do out here. And there's a couple other ones that are as equally as beautiful that are maybe $400 or $500 an hour, but they're more like Batman style houses with like the modern, kitchens and all that. And then the cars too. It's literally just, you know, there's a few that are $2.99 an hour, but there is that one that is $90 an hour. It's a bikini.
One of my favorites that you had in there was, going to eBay to get your Prada bags.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, And that still happens. If you go online right now and you search for it, you can find it yourself, like literally just bags. And some people do collections. You can get like a little Chanel, a little Prada, a little Gucci, little whatever, and get a full set.
Amazing that people are doing that. Um, you talk about rage bait. I'd never heard that before. Explain to the
Okay.
audience what that really is.
Okay, so I don't think people should be rage baiting, but I think they should be engagement baiting. So rage baiting is awful. It's like clickbaiting, it's making up scenarios, it's like completely misleading people and then baiting them into being mad, which works really well, but I think it's very unethical and I personally don't do that. Whereas engagement baiting is just a little bit of extra spiciness added into the content to get people to have something to say about it. And the old days, this literally looked like in the old days, this looked like, people would, like, purposely misspell words, and people would be like, "That's not how you spell it." Or a really famous one is a girl who, instead of saying bagel, she would call it a boggle, and people are like, "Ah, no," and they have to say something. That stuff doesn't really work anymore because people are like, "You're just saying this to get me to comment." But my favorite example is Brooke Monk, who I love, by the way. I think she's an absolute content genius, and she has notably no furniture in her house. And people are constantly like, "Brooke, where is your furniture?" And she has stitches, duets, videos, YouTube. She has entire like Reddit's dedicated to her lack of furniture, and her comment section will have thousands of comments about like, "Where's the furniture?" That's engagement baiting.
Wow. Since you've been a model, what advice would you give to actors, models, and singers on starting to really engage in their social media?
You have to keep in mind that with your content, it's not about you. Like nobody really cares that you are a model. They care about what they can get from this. Like, are you teaching them how to be a better model? Are you showing them how to take care of their skin? Are you showing them how to network? Are you giving them the opportunity to live aspirationally through you by bringing them along to casting calls? Like, there are many models who just kind of flop because they're beautiful, but that's not offering anyone anything. And to me, social media should be treated very much the same as you treat your online store, which is you don't ask, you give. You either give information or you give an opportunity or you give a vibe or you give something. Anybody that's on social media, to be honest. Um, and as far as like modeling in general, like just specifically to the models, clients are going to want to see a lot more than just bikini. And if you just post bikini stuff, you're going to box yourself out of a lot of casting calls. They want to see that you can do the whole swath, lifestyle, and talking, like everything. You can't just be a bikini model and expect to get castings.
Perfect. Say an artist wanted to start a t-shirt store because that seems to be merch that they all want to sell. What advice would you give on starting a Shopify store
Well,
with that?
first, I would say don't ever start a t-shirt store unless you are an artist. So I want to make sure nobody who hears this is like, "Oh, I'm gonna start a t-shirt store," because that's like the hardest one to start. You're never gonna make any money. But if you are an artist, it makes sense because you have a strong brand already behind you, and you can do that, and that's something people really want. So I would say to get on Shopify. Literally, it's a free trial, and if you're an artist and you have money, you should be getting a developer. Like my big thing is like most of the reason, one of the big reasons so many businesses fail is because you try to build your own website and customers can sniff that out. Don't do that. Just spend a little bit of extra money that it takes to get it professionally developed because customer standards are so high up here that if you build your own site, they're going to treat you like you built your own site and they're going to be like, "No, thank you." So get someone to do it for you. Make sure that it has really good potential to convert, meaning like the UI UX is mapped out properly, nicely. It's a nice to use the site and all the elements are in the right place. That's what I would say. And then like what I would tell an artist is like very different than I would tell somebody who's just trying to start a brand because an artist is going to have like a level of dedication and following and people who will buy what they put out because it's them. Whereas if you're a small business, you have to do an intense amount of legwork to get people to trust you. They don't necessarily care about you. Well, they don't care about you, if I'm being completely honest. They don't care about you. You have to earn trust with them. So I would give two different answers based on who was putting out the merch, you know?
You've done a couple of interesting things in that space. One was about the nail polish and how you
Yeah.
put crystals in it, and then it became a big success for you. And then you just recently took
The
on
bubble
these
shoot.
bubble shoes. How do you decide what how do you decide
I
what you're gonna take
really
on?
just look for something that has growth in the market, but is not too saturated. I want to see that it's trending up and there's already expressed interest because I am not ever going to try to sell something again that people aren't directly looking for. It's too hard. Whereas you sell something that people are looking for, it'll sell itself. And then you just have to be the person who differentiates it and markets it better than the next guy. So with the nail polish, nail care is really, really growing. Like by 2030, it's going to be way bigger than it is now. But I can't just show up with a bottle of nail polish and be like, I'm going to sell nail polish, because we already have Orally, we have OPI, we have Essie, we have all the heavy hitters, and I can't compete on price or packaging or anything against them. They have billions of dollars. So all I can do is differentiate, which is why I put the crystals into it. It is two trending things, crystals and nail polishes, and it gives me a point that nobody else has. Same thing with the slippers. Slippers are trendy. It's all the like Sonic the Hedgehog stuff, the customizing your character, all that is trendy. So I found a variant of a slipper that other people weren't doing that I could bring to the market, and then customized it from there. And again, sold itself. Like within the first few weeks, like there was major celebrities reaching out for some, and I actually had to stop because I didn't have enough in to give to the people that wanted it. And we had one of the biggest, I don't know what you call them, like they produce movies, that's what I'll say. They were having a red carpet event and they asked to have them gifted to their guys because they were having a bunch of astronauts. And I was like, I want to, but I don't even have it. And that's the difference between selling something that sells itself versus like, I want to sell this thing and I'm going to try to make people want it.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
And your bubble shoes are cool. Can you jump up and down in those?
Size 13. This is what took all summer to make. Do you see how big this is? Right?
Sure.
This is a 13. This is the most requested size, and they're coming in red. And it took so long to sort it out until like actually the molds kept breaking because of how big it is. But they're coming in red.
That is awesome. Mm-hmm. So you have a book that you put out, and then you also help people that are struggling with their Shopify store. Tell us about, I call it good karma side of you.
The strategy calls that I do, it kind of like tie into each other. It's really just like the book covers the foundations of usually where you're going wrong, where I certainly was going wrong when I started my business. And it's like the critical components you need to get to that first $10,000 a month. Because one thing these guru people will never tell you is these 6-figure solutions that they're trying to sell you don't work when you're so far behind that you like, it doesn't matter if you go subscribe to some service that's going to, ramp up your email marketing. If the website is bad and the marketing is bad and you're not getting views and all these things that are critical at the bottom, if those are all wrong, it doesn't matter how many things you bolt into it and how many of these big solutions. So the book really aims to solve like the key critical issues at the bottom that are keeping you from getting to that first $10,000 a month. And then after that, you should be good. Like now you understand the function, like the core functions of business, and you should be able to like learn your way upward, and you don't need me anymore. And the same thing with the strategy calls is for people who are like, I don't know, like I am lost, I am confused. And then since I've just been on rinse and repeat for so long, and because I spent time as a marketer and I'm able to point out exactly what they need help with, and it's just short little 15 to 30-minute calls. And I only do a couple of them a week because I have my stuff going on, but I love them. I just did one today with a girl who's also in the vintage space. And I was like, oh, let's go. Let's go.
You told me the other day that you're now into the AI space and got something exciting.
Company I
Tell me
found
about
a year and a half ago, I want to say, and they're called Second Self AI. And they digitally clone creators and make logical talking creations. They're extensions of the creator is what they are. But it goes beyond that because it also offers you protection against like people deep faking you or stealing you without, being authorized. And this is happening. This is a real problem. There was that girl on TikTok who had her entire face stolen for a Men's Health commercial that she did not authorize. And it was very upsetting for her because she was like this young, conservatively, like speaks softly, and they just turned her into that. So Second Self not only creates a digital extension of you that your fans can talk to and interact with and ask silly questions and get to know you and like establish like a real connection with, but it also offers protection against you getting attacked by, I call them AI attacks because that's really what they are to me, is people just taking you and doing whatever they want to do with it. So that's my passion project at the moment. And I just like, I'm literally like, I cannot wait to get this thing mainstream.
Where can people find your store on Shopify?
My flippies are, I'm very direct. It's puffy flippers, but I gotta tell you, it's not the regular So I spelled it Puffie. So like cute, right? Puffy slippers, right? The world was a normal place when I
Right,
did
right.
this. I launched it last October. And then a certain human started being investigated by the feds. And, maybe they picked him up yesterday again. And the way my accounts started getting people like, is there any ill affiliation? And I was like, oh my God, no. And I had to do like damage control. I'm like, no affiliation. And it's spelled differently too. Like, come on. I'm not even like a rebrander like that, but this one might be a little too much for even me. I'm thinking about it. It's a very serious thought. My life is a full circus, and I sit here every day wondering how these kind of things happen.
Hey, I really appreciate you being here today. Thanks you gave some great knowledge for people, and you are fun to listen to on your TikTok and your YouTube. And like I said, Gary V better watch out.